This past weekend's Magic Online Modern Challenge showcased the dominance of a brand new archetype. This is Mono-Red Artifact Aggro, also known as 8 Blast. This deck utilizes some powerful creatures we already love, and a few artifacts that replace themselves to turn on some of the most efficient burn spells in the modern format. Urza Saga also fits right at home here, giving this hyper aggro deck some really good late game reach. Congrats to Emma Hagen, the creator of the deck, as well as Caleb Schurer for both top 8ing with it this weekend. Let's see if we can replicate their success with some games of our own. Voldaren Epicure might not look that strong, but trust me, it fills a really important role here. It's guaranteed damage, it's a body, and blood tokens are great in our deck. They filter out lands and enable some powerful burn spells we see here. 2 Galvanic Blasts is 8 damage, 2 Shrapnel Blasts is 10, and the Lightning Bolt is 3. That's 21 damage right there. Let's see if we can survive long enough to fire him off. Finding a Ragavan off the synth here is great, but it's met with a remand. This looks like Temur Scapeshift, a control deck with a 1-card combo finish. This could be rough. They play a Dryad and a 4th land, and we now really have to deal with that Dryad before they can play a Valakut and start bolting whatever they want. Because we missed our land, let's just Shrapnel Blast it, sacrificing the synth. That'll cause the synth to trigger again, and we rip a red land off the top. Amazing. Let's replay the Ragavan and threaten lethal on the next turn. Our opponent plays an iteration into another Dryad, which is really problematic here. We can put them to 3 here by just attacking and burning them, but we do lose to a Scapeshift if that happens. I think we should just Shrapnel Blast the Dryad again and attack in. Ragavan flips an iteration, and you know I gotta cast that one. It finds 2 more burn spells, so we should have lethal next turn. We have to pass, they have the Scapeshift, and... oh, we're good. They don't have enough mountains left in their deck apparently. They sacrificed 5 already, I guess that was it. Good try, opponent. Let's go to the next game. For sideboarding here, the only cards we really want are Alpine Moons to shut down Valakut, as well as some Relic of Progenituses, because Wrenn and 6 is most likely their main card advantage engine that's really good versus us. Let's cut down on some of the Bomats as they're pretty slow, and the Pyrite Spellbomb. Our hand for game 2 is pretty reasonable as well. Turn 1 Ragavan is still the most powerful thing to be doing in Modern. A Wrenn and 6 here kinda sucks, but thankfully we can find a Dragon Rage Channeler off of our bobble draws, so we can play her and blast the Wrenn for 2 damage. At this point it looks like our opponent is holding up some interaction, but they just take 3 from the Channeler attack. I cast the Light at the stage here expecting a counterspell, but nothing. It finds a Bolt and another Light, so we cast that one, finding an Urza Saga and another Light. Let's cast that one too, and it hits another Bolt and a Synthesizer. This next turn is going to be really nice. We have 14 damage worth of burn lined up, and they're at, 14. Would you look at that? The synth finds a redundant Saga, and our Channeler gets tapped down by an Ice, so all we can do here is put our opponent to 8 with the bolts and present lethal on the next turn. An iteration and a main phase Ice for our opponent really isn't going to do it here, so let's just show them that we have lethal with this Shrapnel Blast. That was a really good showing for this deck. Let's see what happens when we get paired into one of Modern's oldest combo decks that still exists, Amulet Titan. We don't know what we're playing against yet, so we keep this removal heavy hand hoping it's good enough, and also hoping that the Synthesizer can find us some action. A turn 1 Saga for our opponent does tell us that they're playing Amulet, so we need to win really fast here. Our synth finds a land, not great, so we just have to pass, with plans to crack the Spellbomb on their end step. Second Saga into an Amulet probably means that we die next turn. We gotta pray that doesn't happen. Hey look, some threats. Let's just play those, pass, and hope we don't lose.
1 eternity later.
Yeah, no, that just happens sometimes. Amulet's a pretty difficult matchup. Thankfully, it gets a bit better post-board. Alpine Moon is great here at destroying our opponent's Urza Saga, as well as stopping the bounce lanes like Simic Growth Chamber, and the 2 Shattering Sprees can be used to blow up amulets before they can combo off with them. Relic is pretty bad here, as well as a Light at the Sages. We just need to be as fast as possible. This hand is a bit awkward. The Urza Saga means that unless we can draw another red land, we're only going to be casting 1 spell per turn, which isn't great. I think the move here is to play a second Channeler and hope to rip a land on the next turn, so we can easily get Delerium and start bashing it in the air. The issue really starts when they present a Dryad, which needs to be dealt with immediately, and we don't draw another red land to win this game. All we can do here is hardcast a Light at the stage and hope we don't lose. Thankfully, they still don't have 6 mana this turn, so they can't actually kill us here, but our next turn still isn't great. We have to spend 2 burn spells to deal with the Dryad, and unfortunately, we still lose the game to a hasted Primeval Titan anyway. This matchup is really rough without a Blood Moon in our deck. as even an Alpine Moon would have most likely been too slow to allow us to close this game in time. One of the main strengths with linear aggro decks, however, is the ability to always beat up on some of the more off-meta decks that can exist. Value decks like 4-Color and Murktide can sometimes struggle with beating the weird value piles, but a proactive aggro deck will always take the driver's seat and not look back. Like here, our opponent cast a Gnarlwood Dryad and a Mishra's Bauble, clearly some weird red-green Delerium deck, but we just don't care. We just get to Galvanic Blast the Dryad and start attacking him with a Ragavan. Granted, the card we flip off of it is a Boom Bust, not the most playable card in the world, but getting the treasure advantage from the monkey is still super great here. Let's play this Epic here and start getting our beats on. Our opponent plays an Urza Saga and furies away our board. Okay, now I'm really confused about what's going on here. We draw an Urza Saga of our own, so let's just play that, put Jegantha into our hand from the companion zone. I'm not too worried about their Saga since we already have a treasure token and a blood token, so our constructs are already going to be a bit better than theirs. They do grab a Haywire Might off of Chapter 3, so we don't get to make a second construct, sadly. We are looking really decent though. We can just play a Ragavan and play the Relic to prevent our opponent from doing anything with the Graveyard Delirium shenanigans. Wait, what? What does that card do? Well, thankfully they're not trying to do anything unfair with the Bloodbrain Marauder. All they do is hit a Mishra's Bauble off of it. That was scary. It can't even block, so when we untap, all we need to do is play the drum in the Epic here, bolt the construct, blast the Dryad, and connect with the Ragavan, and we hit another Boom Bust. Man, I don't even get it. Since their turn here is just attacking him with the Marauder and passing, we get to crack him with the Ragavan again. Can we finally hit a playable card? No, of course not. It had to be the third Boom Bust. We're now given the option to blow up all the lands in play. I really want to play it safe and play the Jegantha, but my opponent begins taunting me in the chat to cast the Bust. Sadly, I end up being a little baby man and just cast Jegantha, but I guess it all works out because I still get to attack for lethal. Looking back on it, I really do regret not doing the cool thing here. For sideboarding here, all I do is bring in the relics, beat their graveyard stuff, as well as the Shadow Spear in case the games end up being all about the Urza Saga. Let's cut the Bomats as well as one more copy of Shrapnel Blast. Game 2 starts off very well. We get to slam Ragavan on 1, and they don't have removal for it, so all they're doing is casting Baubles. We get to play the Channeler into Relic and start eating away at their graveyard, while also getting the Urza Saga started. Their turn 3 play is a Klothys, which is pretty bad on this board, honestly. Our Ragavan finds a Tarmogoyf of theirs, so we just get to play that with the treasure and set up a kill for the next turn with the Saga. When they go to use the Klothys, they make the mistake of targeting the land in my graveyard to make the mana. I'm now able to just tap the Relic, target myself, and it just goes away. Since all they can do here is play a land and pass, we can just make a construct with the Saga, untap, make another construct, grab a Springleaf Drum. This will allow us to start chaining some spells, growing our board with both Channeler and Tarmogoyf. We leave a bolt on top to draw with the Bauble, but we're already attacking with 15 damage right now, and our opponent doesn't seem to have a great way to beat that. We now know that we can beat the red-green Delerium Urza Saga deck. Wow. This deck is super fun, and if you see me playing any modern RCQs this weekend, you know I'll be jamming this. Now, if only there was a way to port this archetype over to Pioneer. Well, I guess I'll see you all next week with this new Phyrexia brew. See you later, folks.